What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and today we're gonna do a bit of a mid-month wrap-up. Confession time, I did try to vlog this month and I wasn't happy with the results that I came up with. I felt like it just wasn't giving. It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't exciting. So I scrapped that and hope to do more vlogging next month when I'm not kind of participating in an online book club thing, which is what I'm doing this month. I am doing a team challenge in my online book club. So no kind of exciting ways of how I'm choosing my TBR, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys what I read. We're going to talk about them in the order I read them, maybe what I read them for, what prompt I read them for, and how I came about these books on my radar. And let's go ahead and get started. I have read 7 books so far this month. It is February the 16th. I will also tell you what I plan to read next, maybe. The first thing that I read in February, of course, I was in the Heated Rivalry moment. I did read Heated Rivalry in January, and I came back and started February with The Long Game. And this of course lacked what Heated Rivalry, had. I think a lot of people probably would rate The Long Game lower just because we don't really have that will they won't they kind of first romantic get together, and we of course don't have that with The Long Game. They're already together. I initially planned to read the books in between and then The Long Game, but it just didn't happen that way because I was like, I have to know what happens next. And so I did read this. I gave it 4 stars. I did like it. I just didn't like it as much as I liked Heated Rivalry. This was more about them actually coming out. So if you know anything about Heated Rivalry, just know The Long Game is basically the coming out story. I wound up giving it 4 stars. I did enjoy it, just not as much as Heated Rivalry. I chose this book because one of the prompts was to read a book set in a country that you have never visited. And so I've never visited Canada, and that is where The Long Game takes place. I then picked up The Hunger Games because there was a prompt in here that had like read a book that has like a self-sacrifice portion of the book, and this is a perfect book for that. And I do want to continue on with The Hunger Games. I haven't read the 2 newest books that have come out, and I heard they are fantastic, but it's been a long time since I've read The Hunger Games. So I did start over by reading, of course, The Hunger Games. I gave it 4 stars. I do think that as far as does it hold up or not, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I originally did, but I read it when I was a lot younger. I was a teenager, but I was a lot younger when I read it the first time. So I do think that I didn't enjoy it as much as I did then, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to watching the movies with my children. Then I chose a book for a prompt that was read a book with a blade on the cover, and the readathon I'm in is kind of like a Winter Olympics themed readathon or challenge, and I chose to read The Wild Card by Stephanie Archer for this. This is the newest in the Vancouver Storm series. It just came out and I am loving this series, and so I chose to read this one. And this is following a woman who owns a bar, and her dad is actually the owner of this hockey team. However, they are estranged for some reason that you find out in the book. They haven't really talked, but the coach of said hockey team obviously has been recruited to kind of get her back in with her dad, and some things happen where she actually goes to work for the hockey team and they work closely together. There's an age gap. It's like a 10-year age gap. I enjoyed the dynamics of this. I enjoyed watching the friendship develop between these 2 characters, because originally they are kind of enemies because he takes her dad's side. Like, she feels like he is on her dad's side because him and her dad have become very close. They have a very close relationship, and she's kind of on the outside, and we get all the dynamics of that. But I liked to see them become enemies, or dislike to friendship to then love. He is also a kind of single dad in here, so if you like those kinds of tropes, I think they were done very well. I overly enjoyed this book, and I gave it 4 stars. Was it my favorite in the series? No, but it's one of my favorite in the series. Then the prompt was to read a book set in like winter that defines people's lifestyles, and I had not read a book yet off my January TBR jars, and so I decided to this time. And that's going to be The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. This book put me in a reading slump. I know I'm going to get hate for this, but this was written in like the 60s, and this is considered a classic sci-fi. Everybody loves this book. It has a 4-something average on Goodreads and 200-something thousand reviews. Fine. Everybody loves it. I have the beautiful, stunning, broken binding edition. I did not love this book, very sadly. This book follows this man who comes to this planet to try to convince this planet's species to come involved with and make alliances with these other planets. Okay, it's his journey of trying to convince these people to do this. It's the journey of figuring out how to live on this planet. It is also the journey of, we see these two people come together as friends and their friendship journey. My issue is, I felt like Ursula K. Le Guin just hit you over the head with certain things over and over and over again. This species of this planet has androgynous sex. They can be female, sometimes male, other times. I found it very fascinating the first time you said it. And then you kept going, in case you didn't know, this is how it works. Here's the 4th time I've told you this is how something works. And I just couldn't get past that. I felt like, why are we going over and over and over again, like really driving the point home? And I also felt like there just wasn't enough plot to bring me into the story. I just didn't care about anything that was going on. I think it was more character focused, but I didn't care about the characters enough to care about the book. And so I did give it 2 stars. Unfortunately, don't come for me. I did enjoy the aspects of this book. I did enjoy the world and the aspects and learning about the world. I didn't jive with the book. I didn't jive with the writing style, and I'm so sorry. But then I had to kind of pick a random book off my shelves, and so I took my own jar and I picked out of it, and I got The Everking by L.J. Andrews. I have not read a fantasy romance in a long time, guys. It's been a long time since I've read fantasy romance, and I picked this one up. And this one, I was like, I know that I'm gonna like this, and it was just okay for me. I didn't love it, and I didn't hate it. This is basically 2 worlds that are enemies. We have the Everking, who's supposed to be this big bad king, and then we have this princess of this other world. Supposedly, the Everking has been trapped below. He can't get into this other world, and that's not gonna, of course, happen, because he's gonna get into the other world and he's gonna kidnap this princess, and things ensue. I just didn't care for these characters. I didn't care for this relationship. I don't know. It's something about fantasy romance where we spend either too much time on the fantasy portion and not enough time on the character development and the romance, or we spend too much time on the character development and the romance and then not enough time on the fantasy portions of the book. And I just feel like this was a mix of both. I didn't feel like I got enough fantasy, and I didn't feel like I got enough character building and relationship. I didn't get enough of each of these things to make it cohesive and a great book for me. Do I think it was poorly written? No. Am I going to continue on and read the second part? This is like a duology, I think. There's other books following characters in this world, but I think this particular book is a duology. I will read the next book in the series. I am interested to see what happens. I didn't love it. Okay, so I gave it 3 stars. Then the prompt was to read a book with a mountain on the cover. So again, trying to hit goals here. I decided to read Wildside by Elsie Silver, which is the 3rd book in her Rose Hill series. I gave the second book 5 stars. I loved that book, but I have a contentious relationship between me and Elsie Silver. Some books I love, some books I hate. I chose this one. This was a fine book. Did I love it more than the second book? No, this was a 4-star book for me. This is a kind of enemies to lovers, fake marriage kind of thing. We do have this girl whose sister has died, and for some reason her nephew has been left to her sister's landlord, neighbor, and so she loves her nephew. She wants her nephew with her, and so they have to roundabout end up marrying for purposes, and we really see this relationship thrive. I really enjoyed seeing, again, their move from enemies to friends to lovers. I think the friends aspect then to lovers is very important for me, because I genuinely don't like when it goes to enemies to now I love you forever. I feel like there has to be a gradual build. in that kind of story, and those are the stories I like the most, and I do think that happened here. I do think that we saw a lot of character growth in both of these characters. So I enjoyed it, but not as much as the second book. The second book will forever be my heart and my favorite, but I did enjoy this one and I did give it 4 stars. The next book I read was off my January TBR jars because the prompt was to read a book that goes downhill fast, and so It's Not Her by Mary Kubica fit that perfectly because in the first chapter people are dying. Okay, it went downhill super fast. People are dying. So we are following our main character. Her name is Courtney, and their family goes on this mountain lodge retreat vacation, and she finds her brother and sister-in-law murdered in her cabin one morning, and one of her nieces is gone, is missing. Nobody can find her. So immediately, murder right there in the first, girl missing. So we're looking for this missing girl along with who murdered these people, and we are also getting the missing girl's perspective from, of course, days before this event happened. So we get all of these things, and I really liked how Mary Kubica did this because I feel like she weaved the story well to make you not know who did it, to make you constantly guess, because there were reasons and motives for a lot of people to have. She's made everybody the suspect, okay? And so for me, I had no clue until the end. There was one twist that I saw coming, and then the other one I didn't. So I give props to Mary Kubica. I've read one book of hers before, and I can't remember which one. It was the missing one with missing in the title. I can't remember, but enjoyed that one. Enjoyed this one. Will read more from her. And now for what I'm reading currently. So currently I am reading With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. I'm probably 30% into that one. I'm reading that for a book that takes place in a short amount of time. And this book has terrible reviews on Goodreads. It has like a 3.3. I'm not sure why. I'm enjoying my time so far. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm just so about it. But that's what I'm listening to on audio. And then for my physical book, I am reading Wild Ever After by Rebecca Genchak. This is a book that also I pulled out of my TBR jars, and I am reading this for hockey things on the cover, because I'm trying to get my January TBR jars down. I am trying to hit my 2026 goals, and that is to read 4 continuations of series and 3 owned books. So I have some more goals to hit here, and I do want to continue on with my January TBR jars, reading that down at least 1 out of each jar, which I think I can do by the end of the month. It is the 16th of February, so I have a little bit of time to go before the end of the month, but I'm enjoying my time this month as far as my reading goes. Let me tell you what I have maybe been watching. So as a family, if you don't know, I have a husband, I have 2 kids. As a family, we have decided to kind of pick 5 movies we either have seen before and want other people to see, or we want to see. So we're picking 5 movies each, and we put them on a wheel, and then we've been randomly spinning it, and my kids have had just a grand time with this. So the first movie that we watched was The Wild Robot. I have seen The Wild Robot before, and my kids have seen The Wild Robot before, but their dad had not. And they always make fun of me because I cried at The Wild Robot. I cried, who cares? But they make fun of me. So they wanted their dad to watch it to see if their dad thought it was sad enough to cry about. Spoiler alert, he thought one portion was sad, but he didn't think the others were sad. And spoiler alert, I also cried again. I think that is a fantastic, just heartwarming movie that has a good theme to it, and like any child movie, I cry at a lot of them that have that moving kind of message. So highly recommend The Wild Robot. I've now seen it twice. Then we all agreed to watch Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which my son had on his list, but I thought that was okay. I'm not the biggest horror fans, especially when there's not like a whodunit kind of thing. When we already know what's happening and it's just kind of supposed to be a little bit scary. So I did watch it. It was fine, but it's not something to write home about. It's not like a franchise that I absolutely positively adore. And then we spun again and we got The Art of Racing in the Rain, which was my daughter's pick. And she had watched it, and my daughter, I always tell her, like, you're a sociopath. You don't cry at anything. But she did cry at this one when she first watched it. It was a couple years ago. And this is a book that I have not read, but I wasn't really planning on reading it because I knew how sad it was. And then we watched this movie, and of course me and my husband both just sobbed. And of course you know what happens in the movie. You obviously know from the beginning what's going to happen in this movie. At least one part of what's going to happen in this movie. But it doesn't stop the tears from flowing. The tears are flowing, and they're flowing fast. And so that was really sad, but I do still think that that is a wonderful, wonderful movie. So who knows what we're going to watch next, but I'm interested to see what that will be, and I will check that in as well at the end of the month. I'm just having a great time with all of the things. But it's time to wrap up this video. Tell me what you guys have been reading in the month of February. It's the love month. Tell me what's going on. And I will catch you guys in the next one.